I am
Morning.
so excited to be here. We're on for another opportunity to talk about Black prosperity in our community. And today I've got a great guest with me that I'm really excited. He's an old and dear friend, one of the most active people I know in our community. And you know what they say about, if you want to get stuff done, give it to a busy person. And so we've got today one of Miami's busiest, most prominent African Americans that is running a signature organization that's been around for over 44 years now. And with us this morning is the chairman of the board of the Miami-Dade Black Affairs Advisory Board, Mr. Pierre Rutledge. Pierre, good morning.
Bill, good. Glad to have you introduce me that way. I thought that you were talking about somebody else. But since you say that it's me, I'm glad to be here as chair at this appointed time of the Black Affairs Advisory Board. And I know we go back and forth when I say the MD and use advisory as opposed to advocacy. But I think that we're joined at the hip for what we're trying to do as a collective here in our community.
Yeah, we really are, man. But Pierre, I need for people to understand the value of your experience and kind of what brought you to this. And for those of you all that don't know, Pierre is a proud graduate of Florida A&M University, Agricultural and Mechanical University.
Absolutely.
And he's a member of the first Black fraternity. He's a member of Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity, as he would say, a part of the 06 crew. But tell us, man, about you and your background and kind of what brought you to this moment in time.
I am the grandson of immigrants. My grandparents immigrated here from the Bahamas into Overtown. My mother was born and raised in Overtown, and she also went to Florida A&M, and I have some aunts and uncles who also are proud HBCU graduates. So I guess I would say that I'm third generation Miami. Had the opportunity to grow up here to experience what I call paradise. I often tell people I live where everybody vacations, so I get the best of both worlds. It prepared me for a lot. Miami has gone through a transition unlike any other major urban southern city, from integration to the McDuffie riots, which I was actually a kid running around seeing our community burn because of some of the injustices that the citizens saw that were going on. So we lived through it, and we made it through. And that's what makes us so vibrant, and people want to come here. But we have our challenges just like any other urban city. But my focus is clear. It's priority number one, and it will remain my priority, is that of our Black and brown population. And our ordinance that enables what we do on the Miami-Dade Black Affairs Advisory Board clearly states that we are the voice who presents or gives our opinions to the Board of County Commissioners for Miami-Dade County for Black and brown people. So it's an honor and a pleasure to see it come full circle. The son of immigrants, mother grew up, and her family grew up through desegregation, saw it integrate, go through the McDuffie riots, and then see us here. So thank you for having me.
Well, listen, man, how do you balance it all, right? Because, you've got your day job, and then you're chairman of the board of this awesome organization, but you're also the president of our pride and joy, the 100 Black Men of South Florida. Brother, where do you get the time?
I often believe that we are given a task in our lives. There's a purpose, and everybody has a purpose on this earth. And I think that, and I'm a praying man. I think that God has given me a purpose, and I've gotten to a point in my life where I finally figured out my why. Some people never do. Why do you exist? What are you here to do? Is it about self or is it about the community? And I've just decided that leadership oftentimes calls you. And sometimes you just have to answer the call. And so when leadership calls, sometimes it's rough, Bill. And being in leadership, it's hard. It's lonely. It's lonely, but it's necessary. And I think as leaders, we have to be intentional about what we want to do. You're not going to accomplish everything, but you have to set goals and you go for it. Everybody's not going to like it. However, if you're moving forward as a leader on behalf of the people you serve, then it's not about self, right? It's about, service to others.
Yeah. The thing I like about you and about your service requiem, right, is that it's like Tom Joyner used to always say, for you it's Black 365, 24/7.
It is.
And everyone is not geared that way. But you seem to be prepared for this thing. And I'm going to call it a battle because I think it's a fair assessment, right? Because you grew up here. So talk to me for a minute about the evolution of the Black Affairs Advisory Board. And quite frankly, and I know this, but this is a pitch question, why is it still important and relevant?
I think it's relevant. It's been around since 1979, okay? Former city commissioner, the late M. Athley Range, and for those of y'all who are not familiar, one of the original proprietors of Range Funeral Home here in our community, went to the Board of County Commissioners and said, listen, we need something that addresses the needs of the Black community. And from that was birthed the Office of Black Affairs. And in 1980, I think it was, they had a summit where it was the Black blueprint for the 80s. Birthed from that was the Miami-Dade Economic Advocacy Trust, which was formerly known as MAP in 1980. So this is year 45. I'm just trying to be a good steward of what's been given. And it took a dynamic community leader in 1979 to go to the county commissioner and say, enough is enough. We need something that addresses our needs. And I think it's very, very important. Oftentimes, we're not given a platform to express ideas like we're doing today, nor are we given a platform for our community to come and say, listen, good, bad, or indifferent, they want to be heard. They want to be heard. And it's our job to report back to the county commission on the state of Black Miami, which we do every year, just how things are going. Now, there have been times, but I'm going to be honest with you, the report hasn't been good. Things haven't been good in Miami. I think we are in a better place now, but we still have a lot of work to do.
We do, and as a matter of fact, you and I have partnered on many things, and one of the things that we talked about is this educational drift, right? This sand that seems to shift underneath the feet of our children that is really almost allowed for them to have mediocre standards. And so consequently, our children are suffering for a lot of different things. But it's interesting because in the midst of all of this, the Black Affairs Advisory Board has always called a spade, and I think I like the fact that you're untethered. And to be honest with you, you and I talk about it, about your ability to be able to transact business in that space has become so important. So your board, and what's your responsibility there, and how does it all work for you?
We got a great group of volunteers, from folks who are retired, citizens who live on the south end of our county, which we often ignore, or don't pay enough attention to. Folks who live on the north end of our counties, folks like myself who live right in the city of Miami. So you have a melting pot. And there's no big I's and no small U's. Everybody brings something to the table. Their experiences come to the table. And oftentimes you'll often find collaborations that we have that make us even better as a voice of Black Miami, Black Miami-Dade County. And I mean, you've been a super partner in what you all do from affordable housing. I know you're not where you want to be, but you're certainly not where you used to be in trying to give everybody that American dream of home ownership, right? It's not perfect, but at least MD's trying.
It's interesting you said it because one of the things, we're having conversations every day, and I think we're getting closer to understanding exactly kind of what the dynamic is, right? We're 16% of Miami-Dade County's population, Black folk, right? And we don't segregate that among Haitians and Nigerians and, and people of Caribbean descent or whatever. But we're talking about people of color. We are right now humming at around that same percentage in regards to home ownership, in regards to our program and, and our down payment assistance. But like I tell our folk, we're a Black agency. We need to have higher numbers. And so we're now beginning to have discussions with the National Association of Real Estate Brokers, a Black organization, to have them to hopefully help us with our marketing for this so we can gear it up and get it to the next level. And I think that the model that you and I are using in regards to how we partner is ideal. I mean, I like how we've built, Black Business Month together. It's been an amazing partnership, right? And so our next goal is to do that on a daily basis, where we can meld the two, because we do think that there's power in that. But one of the interesting things is that we've got all these different cities and municipalities. And have you had any thought around how integral of a role they should play going forward versus what they're doing today?
I think that everybody should have a stake in what we do.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't matter if you're in Hialeah, Miami Beach, Aventura, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, let's be honest, we're all on the same ship called Miami-Dade County.
Yeah.
If the ship sinks, guess what?
Right.
We all sink.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
I hate to use that, but we have to be intentional. We're all that we have sometimes.
Sure.
And it gets frustrating when we're trying to do so much.
Right.
And people criticize.
Mm-hmm.
Or ignore.
Yep.
And then you have those who have the ability to help, but for some reason won't get in the game. All we're trying to do is to answer that why. Why does MDEAT exist?
Yeah.
Why is the Black Affairs Advisory Board around? Why?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people can't answer, but I see what you're doing.
Yeah.
You're trying.
Yeah.
You're exposing us, and I learn stuff all the time, following you on social media, opportunities that are out there from county line to county line.
Yeah.
It's not just, in pockets. You're handling the entire county. And another thing that I like, and I sort of, grabbed it from you, we take our meetings at least 4 times a year.
Yeah.
A year. Last year, I was intentional.
Right.
We would have our meetings in the evening in communities. We went to the South Dade Library. We went to the North Dade Library. We were in Miami Gardens. We were in the city of Miami, so that you have your platform available for citizens when it's convenient for them, because that's who we represent. And I say, you've been over at Miami Beach and held a meeting. You're all over the place.
Yeah.
And that makes sense. You're taking a quasi-governmental entity out to the people.
Yep.
Because we meet at 10 o'clock in the morning at the government center. That's inconvenient for some of the board members to try to get there.
Sure it is.
So you can imagine what it's like for citizens who have the need or want to learn.
Yeah.
And so what you've taken is taken to another level.
Yeah.
With social media, and I mean, just everywhere.
Yeah.
Everywhere. And then you're dealing with issues that are just not affordable housing. You're talking that prison to pipeline.
Yeah.
I mean, high school.
Yeah, the school to prison
pipeline. That's key.
Let me tell you, man.
The statistics don't lie.
They don't, and it scares me too. And I'll tell you why. And I've said this, and you know me and my family. I've got a very successful, almost 30-year-old daughter, who's doing extremely well in the world. And my concern is who's she going to marry, right? If we're locking up our Black men. Black boys are literally becoming men while they're in prison versus while they're in college or while they're on the work site, and I'm concerned because I'm beginning to realize that if we don't tilt this thing in a different direction, then it's not going to happen. So from an individual player perspective, I believe my job is to smooth out things in Miami so that these Black boys that are becoming men can become leaders of their community and also fathers to their children. Everyone talks about how, the Black families are becoming deteriorated because of it. But nobody talks about the fact that there are more white families that are disjointed than Black families because, it's kind of like until H.C. Smith says, until the lion gets his own historian, the story of the hunt will always glorify the hunter. Right. And I begin to realize that it's our role to be able to tell the story in such a way that, yes, we know it's bad, we're living it. And my father at 90 years old even said that he thinks it's worse now than it's ever been. And I happen to agree with him, but I also think that there's light at the end of this tunnel, because we are, at least through the Black Affairs Advisory Board and our partnership, we're beginning to examine some of these anomalies, and I'm gonna call them that. Because when you think about gentrification, which is something that I know is near and dear to your heart and the community that you live in, where do we go from there? How do we solve these problems, without us calling a spade a spade?
Well, I think we have to call it. We have to play the hand that we're dealt. If it's a spade is a spade, it's a spade. I think you caught on to what we were going to go through years ago in your presidency or CEO of the chamber, which built the infrastructure for Black businesses to have capacity to hire not just our Black males, but our Black females. Career Source, under the leadership of Rick Beasley right now, is prime to get folks employed. Let's face it, we were given a gift by being able to have an opportunity to go to a college.
Yeah.
Go to college. And
Yes.
you went to Clark Atlanta, HBCU, and I went to Florida A&M.
Yeah.
How many people do we know that grew up with us, didn't have that opportunity, but were intelligent, had a skill set that we probably would never have?
Right. That's right.
The only options were go to the military or go to college. Now we have, through Career Source, through what the Chamber's doing with Eric Knowles there now, what you started to build capacity in terms of Black businesses and careers that, hey, if you don't go to college, you got somewhere to go. You have a place to learn and live the American dream, which includes home ownership, which now is back in your lap again. However, but that high school or pipeline, the prison or whatever, if you make mistakes early on in life, it makes it difficult, and it's happening to a lot of our African-American males.
Yeah.
Something that's very, very simple. I mean, I agree that things, there are consequences for everything.
Sure.
But, your teen court gives them a second chance, and they're judged by literally a group of their peers.
That's right. That's right.
And sometimes that's even worse. I've had an opportunity to witness that. But we have to give our community a second chance.
Yeah.
And we have to give them some livable skills.
There you go.
Because everybody's not going to college.
No.
I mean, there's not enough seats.
That's right.
The enrollment won't hold them. And there's just things that make everything go. We talked about the traffic on the way here. Okay, well, you drive an automobile, somebody has to fix that.
Yeah.
All right, and the way the technology has it, I mean, the days of taking it under the tree and getting somebody to do it is over with. I mean, everything's computerized. So we just have to deal with the whole diaspora.
Right. Let's talk for a second about this education in our urban-based schools, middle schools and high schools. The 100 Black Men has a leadership academy, and I tell people all the time. I said, I don't want to hear that our Black children are in trouble anymore, and the reason that I say that is because we can speak life or we can speak death. And in my mind, when I look at those young boys in the Leadership Academy, when I look at the young boys that are in the 5,000 Role Models program that Congresswoman Frederica Wilson just had her major event for, I realize that the future is bright.
Oh, yeah.
But it becomes luminescent if we take what we have learned and give to them, right? So the clarion call of the Black Affairs Advisory Board, of the Miami-Dade Economic Advocacy Trust, is engagement and involvement. How are you seeing those numbers increase for you as an organization to help with some of those strategy or strategic points that we know that we need to focus on like that?
I believe that every kid deserves a chance, right? There's somebody who pushed you and put their hand in your back and says, you got the ability to do something.
Mm.
And if it kills me, I'm going to make sure that you go. Now, you may not succeed, but we're going to try.
Right.
And
right.
the same thing happened for me.
Right.
So we're paying it forward now.
Right.
All right. Something that's very disturbing. We have 41 kids in our leadership academy, and with the 100 black men.
Okay.
I wish I could have 100.
Right.
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 But we just don't have the capacity now, and we're going to build. That's going to be the goal.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
Liberty City Optimists, where we charted that in 1990. We got 600 kids, both male and female, whether it's cheerleaders or dance, football. I mean, our after-school program that we have. But we just have to keep trying. We have to keep trying. And something that I see, and I'm around kids a lot. And when we grew up, we always had to get in front of somebody and read, or, you know, I call it our Easter speech.
Sure.
They told you, you know, how do you greet someone? How do you speak? Eye-to-eye contact.
There you go.
We're missing that. So I force our young men to do that. Yeah. And what I found is we don't communicate well. And if you look at the statistics, the data, and it says in a lot of our schools, the reading scores in high school is at an all-time low.
You know what? Okay, so now we're at a point that I want to not shift but carry this forward. The most recent discussion was around this English teacher who gave a list and said, you should not be saying these words in my class, and if so, they're going to be consequences. Not dire, but she wants for you to be able to write a report on why you're using them. And so on the Ricky Smiley show yesterday, you know, they had people calling in saying, what do you feel about that? Because everybody was like, oh, you know, you're squelching their freedom of speech. You know, they should have the right to say what they want. It's wrong that you say that. And I sat down and I smiled because I said, black folk I know don't feel that way. I agree with that, right? And so as the radio came on and as they did their poll that you would call in and say how you felt, I'm gonna say 90% of black folks said these kids need to have standards, right? What's your thought on that?
I agree. We have standards as adults. Where does it stop trickling down? I mean, we've gotten away from the basics. I remember at Holmes Elementary, right there across from the Pork and Bean Project back then, Miami Northwestern, right across the field. Right. Every week we had 10 words in a dictionary that we had to put in a spell, put in a sentence, and write a paragraph using those words. Every week. What did it do? You had to define them. Yeah. It expanded your vocabulary.
Yes.
There were words that I would have never come across. That we had, you know, they give us the 10 words for the week, and you're like, whoa. One of which, and I'll never forget, was Armageddon. And when I got to college, I mean, folks in college didn't know how to spell it, know what it meant, or put it in a sense. And they were from all over the country. Yeah. So they forced us to communicate. They forced us to learn words. They forced us to read. And I keep saying that reading is the key. You can't solve any equation without reading the directions. If you can't read the directions, then you're behind the 8 ball.
So the Leadership Academy has been perfectly named the Harold E. Ginyard Leadership Academy, Dr. Harold E. Ginyard Leadership Academy. And I will never forget, Dr. Ginyard said to me when we started, and God bless him, we met him because of Leon Valentine, who grew up in this community around this area. He's the brother of Mark Valentine, and he's the father of Todd Valentine, one of the stars of our organization who now works, with President Biden and some of the other folks in congressional leadership. Dr. Ginyard said, if you don't set the bar high, they'll never jump over it. He said, stop thinking these kids can't do. And it gives me chills when I think about it, because he decided that all these kids were going to be excellent. And honestly, I've become to realize something as I've gotten older. Their ability to learn is in direct proportion to what you expect them. Right? There's nothing from a DNA perspective that disables your ability to be great. It's limited by your exposure. And you're right. We all know that there's this whole statistic around, that the amount of beds they build in prison are based on third grade aptitude testing, right? So what I believe is that it is absolutely our responsibility as leaders in the Black community to set the bar high, to make sure that our kids are articulate, have the ability to learn, and then give them the resources. And don't get me wrong, listen, I know, I agree, everybody learns differently. I can tell you that I can memorize anything if I write it down. Right. But if you say it to me and I hear you and I don't write it down, I'm gonna forget it. There are some other people who have a photographic memory. So we all learn differently. As we push into this whole understanding around academics, as the Black Affairs Advisory Board and the Miami-Dade Economic Advocacy Trust continue to partner, I want for our organizations to understand that learning is a generational thing, that there are grown men that need to relearn because of the way that technology is moving forward, right? And so I want to congratulate you on raising that as an issue as you're on Glenn Milberg's show and others, and when you articulate some of the different things that are going on in our community. I so enjoy watching your perspective when you talk about those things.
Because we have a perspective. A lot of these things you have to have lived it. Mm-hmm. This isn't textbook. Mm-hmm. It's called life experiences. It's called Dr. Harold Ginyard breathing life into a program and telling you all why he was doing what he was doing, that every kid can learn, right? And set the bar high. Don't ever lower the standard, period. Yep. And then at the end of the day, you have to inspect what you expect from folk. Because, we'll take the easy way out.
We will.
But we have to bring everybody. The whole village has to come. The Divine Nine, the Chamber, MDEAT, everybody has to come and push into this to make this city the great city that it is and make it better.
We got 2 minutes left. Where is the Black Affairs Advisory Board? Where are you going? What's next for them? And then what's next for you, Pierre?
What's next for the Black Affairs Advisory Board is to continue to push forward, to live out the tenets of our ordinance, to be the voice for the Black community. And I hate to use that, but it's the Black and brown community in the diaspora, whether you're from Haiti, Jamaica, it doesn't matter. To continue to talk about those issues that are pertinent and important in our community, such as education, economic development, and empowerment, health and wellness. Yeah. Nobody wants to talk about that. Right. Your health is your wealth. And also affordable housing. What does that look like? Because we want to be able to keep these kids who made a promise and a commitment to us here and not lose them to other cities because they just can't afford to live here anymore. What's next for me? But I don't know. I'm going to continue to serve until it hurts. And then when it hurts, man, I'm going to continue to push forward and push forward. And you know why? Because I stand tall. Why? You stand tall. Why? Because you stand on the shoulders of Dr. Harold Ginyard. Yeah. We stand on the shoulders of the Dr. Solomon Stensons of the world, the Johnny Joneses, the Bill Turners. We stand on their shoulders, right? None of us are perfect.
Sure.
All right? But we stand on their shoulders. And right now, we're 10 feet tall, and we have an obligation while we're here to do the best that we can for our people and for this county as a whole. It doesn't matter. We just got to keep pushing it forward. And I think with that, man, and continuing to have the collaborations with MDEAT and we keep doing the Black Business Month, we're chipping it. We're chipping at it, and we're going to get to it.
We are.
And when we finish, we're going to be a diamond in the rough. We'll be able to sit back and be 90, like your dad, and talk about you remember we had the conversation in 2024 about where we were going and see the fruits of our labor and the forefathers who have gone on before us will be looking down and saying, son, job well done.
Yeah. I thank you for that, man. I thank you for your time because I think that, brother, it's always good to talk to you. I walk away.
Do more of this.
We do. I walk away always energized because, like I said before, the march of the faithful sometimes is lonely, but I want to let you know that you've got a partner in this. You've got a partner in the Miami-Dade Economic Advocacy Trust. You got a partner in Bill Diggs. So let's keep pushing. This has been another installation of Black Prosperity. Everyone have a great day, and thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.